everyone, welcome back to the Whiskey Creek and N scale. This video is not really going to be a review, but I recently got one of these Rapido center beam cars, and they're a really nice car. I really like how they run, to the point where I'm going to probably get another one. But what I want to do is actually build a custom load for it. Previously what I had was, let me grab it for a sec here, a much smaller car, and all I had, somebody had made this, I think I bought it through like Facebook or something like that, and there are little tiny loads that were done up on blocks of wood, and they had cut it up into smaller pieces. But I want like a full load, and these cars are a tad bigger than the one that I previously had. So I want to make removable loads for this, and then I'm actually planning on getting a second one of these Rapido cars, and then this way I can swap out the load and have it unloaded and loaded and things like that. So yeah, basically, as you can see in the lumber mill area back here, there's lots of I guess cut lumber for buyers to find, and this might be for lumber here, and there's some of these I guess wraps of green forest products, and that's from Osborne model kits. But the goal for this project is to make a full-size load for here, and then have it removable, so then I can have train come in, pick up the empty, take that out, and then drop off a full one for unloading. So let's get started. All right, so we're outside in the garage, and take a few moments just to have a really good look at the detail in this car, because it really is a very nice car. But again, this is not meant for a review of the car. So what we want to do is get some measurements of the size of wood that we need. So what I have here is digital calipers. So I can tell with the battery, the display is, the battery must be getting low because the display is very light. So now, since I got it zeroed, then what I want to do is get a measurement. And the one thing you want to look for is, I'll sort of point there, you can see the ribbing. So that's a little raised portion. So you don't want to take the measurement of the lowest portion, because the wood's going to sit on these ribs here. So I'm going to go sort of like so. So 0.84 of an inch. Now, because of a goofy measurement like that, this is where things like millimeters can really come into handy. So we have 21.46 millimeters. So it'd be a little bit easier to get a piece of wood for that size. And just as a gauge, I brought out one of these ones that I had for the other center beam, and as you can see, it fits in here fairly well. 21.46 is what we measured, and we want to go, so I mean that's a match. So we know we're onto the right path here for something that fits in well. See, it's offset with the ribs on top of it, and then fits in nice and snug into there, so you can still get it out. And then the other thing that we want to do is measure the thickness of it. So another way to be able to do some of these measurements is kind of what they refer to in woodworking as storyboarding. So without even needing, because sometimes the transferring numbers and trying to figure out the 21.46 millimeters is a challenge. And I find that in here, there's not a lot of room to really get a good, because you have to come in almost at an angle, because I want to measure from the inside of basically one of these ribs here to the just shy of the outside or just before the outside of this rib here, so it sits where it should in line with the edge. Of course, I could cheat and just go off of this guy, but just so you can see how you can do things, you can grab a piece of paper and line that up. And then with a small little marker here, we can make a little hash here for how long we want to make that. So it doesn't really matter what the measurement is, I just want to match up to that dash. And if things work out, I should be able to, looks like a perfect match to me. So going off another measurement, because we want the length of this. So again, this guy actually doesn't even fit all the way. So I can't even get the full length of the car. So I'm going to line up with the one edge. And then again, get so now I know. So I have my little mark there, and then to this edge here should fit perfectly in there. And then we just have to transfer that to a piece of wood. So in many cases, it doesn't matter what this measurement is, because I just have this as my measurement. So it could be whatever numbers that it could be, because it's probably not going to work out to be an exact number to easily work off of. So I've got my tape measure out so we can actually get a number, just so we can have a look. And I made the little hash mark a little bit darker. So when we line this up, we're looking at around 5 inches, 7/16. So that's kind of what we're looking at for the length to be able to fit inside there. So when we're looking at the thickness, so we have our hash right there. We can probably make that a little bit thicker if we want. So when we line this up, you're over a quarter. Do it on this one so you can see a little bit better. So you're over a quarter, but not quite at, I think that one's 5/16 for the next hash there. Or you can be lazy like me and just say 1/4 1/2, because there's 1/2 mark after. Yeah. So this is sometimes where the millimeters comes into play, because you can sometimes get a little bit more, because really, what is that measurement, right? How are you gonna, if you're planing down wood to be this thick, are you running it through a planer and trying to get it matched up to that? So anything that helps you sort of get that exact measurement, because you want it to be a snug fit, not too tight, because if it's too tight, then it may not easily come in and out, and then you're wrestling with it, and you don't want that when you're changing out loads. So we want to be able to have our measurements as close as possible. So that's why really it doesn't matter to me what the number is. I'm just matching up with these hash marks. So time to get cutting some wood. Okay, so I found a piece of wood, and I've locked in the 21.46 even in case the battery dies, because it's really fading fast here. But this little screw here at the top allows you to lock it into place, so then it won't move around on you. And this piece of wood is actually almost perfect. So as you can see, it's just a tad off. So what we're going to do, because even if I use my example piece here, and we have a look, so it's just a smidge off if we're perfectly lined up here. So this piece of pine probably will work just fine. I don't need anything heavy or exotic or any of the any hardwoods or anything like that, because I don't need that much extra weight, I don't think. I just want a load, not necessarily, so I have some scrap other woods, but I think I'm gonna run this guy through the planer just once and hopefully just take a smidge off, and with that then we can then cut it down to a better size. So we've got it down to fitting in perfectly. And that's the nice thing about these calipers, is even with, if it's off or lost its battery, then we got a good match. All right, so the next thing is going to be probably on one of the more dangerous tools that you can have in a little wood shop here, and that being the table saw. So I've got the height brought down to just a tad above the wood itself. I don't need the blade sticking out, but as you can see, there's not a lot of room between the fence and the blade itself. Maybe we can focus, there you go. So between the two, there's not a lot of room in here, and that's because we have it set up for, this comes out on the camera. So that's our little hash mark for the thickness of our lumber loads. Now remember, doesn't matter what the actual number is, because now I'm just transferring this little hash onto my table saw. So this can be whatever number it is, and I think it was, off the top of my head, I want to say it was that 1/4 and a half type measurement. So it wasn't quite a full, you know, hash mark on the tape measure. So we're trying to figure that out and transfer that to this small little gap here. Would be a pain in the butt, especially trying to transfer that level of inaccuracy. But now it's accurate, right? So I have, taking in consideration the thickness of these blades, or sorry, the teeth on the blade, then I have my piece that's going to go in between the fence and here, and then I'm going to have my pieces cut down to the size that I want. So obviously, if you have a table saw, be very careful if you're doing this. You know, use your proper PPE for hearing, fingers, and breathing, and your eyes. Don't forget them. All right, the last step is just cutting down to our length using the miter saw. So first what I'm going to do is actually take off a little bit of the edge just so I have a clean edge on the one side, and then I'm going to grab my piece of paper and measure out the length of it. So So I transferred my length to the one hash mark to the next to get them lined up there. So now I have my length. Okay. First do this check. The most important check, oops, sorry for kicking the camera, is here, and it's not fitting. So we need to take a little bit off. So now when we do our test fit, nice and snug in there. So now I need to make, so I can use this as a template, again, without doing any measurements whatsoever. I can just line this up with my piece of wood and cut up a few more. I'm probably gonna cut up a whole bunch of spare ones and then I can swap them around and things like that. So let's, I'll see you in a minute or two. So there we have it. We have 2 lumber loads. Now what I might do is actually shave them down a little bit, give them a little bit of a sand stay, because I'm going to print off some stuff and stick that over top, and that's going to add some thickness. So I may actually give them a quick little run through with the planer, or like a hand plane, just to clean them up. But otherwise, they're good to go. So I ended up getting these magnets, and what my idea is to cut some holes, matching holes on each side of the lumber load, and then these will help keep them on the load on the car. So, but I'm a little concerned that these magnets might actually be too thick for what I need. So let's get them open and have a look. So they're not too bad for thickness. They're just a little shy, so should be able to make them work. The one thing that, especially if you get these types of magnets, is these are the rare earth ones. So if you're doing stuff, especially around like metal and stuff, then they have a tendency to go flying all over the place. So you don't want to, these ones are small ones, but you don't want to get them stuck in the middle of like your fingers, and because they'll just come flying at you with a lot of force. So they're good magnets, but they're also, you have to be careful. So I'm actually going to go with a normal drill bit. I was thinking about doing this on my drill press, but I think it's probably a little overkill for a couple 3/8 holes that really aren't that deep. So I went with the Forstner bit. These ones have the point at the end, and it would actually poke right through. So I'm hoping that this one will, try not to drop that. This one will not go as deep and still allow me to maintain the thickness of the wood. Okay, so now we have all our holes cut. Nice thing about using scrap wood is you don't have to carry about apparently some type of screw holes that I had in there. So I'm going to put some glue in there, just normal CA type super glue. Put some glue in there, put my magnets in there, and then I'll actually, for clamping force, use them in sort of a reverse format to, apparently I didn't line those up, in a reverse format to keep them together. All right, we're down onto the workbench now, and what I found online is some pictures of various types of wood loads. So Canfor and the Westerhoesten, yeah, I'm not pronouncing that right, and I don't have my glasses on. So, but it's a common wood loads, and so these I've already sized them down. So they originally came quite a bit longer, so I scaled them down so then they're the right size for my wood pieces. So I'm going to cut those up, and then I'm going to try to use some Mod Podge, and this one is a gloss one, because a lot of these wraps are some type of like plastic wrap over top. So what I'm hoping is the Mod Podge of a gloss one is going to give a little bit of a sort of shiny effect, and that hopefully should represent using the plastic wraps that are typically protecting these loads. So let's get started. So I've got this one cut down to the right size, and it wraps over top fairly nicely. So what I'm going to do now, it does overhang a little bit on the edges, but that's okay. I will trim that off after it's dried. So now we're going to glue this up with the Mod Podge, and then apply this on there. One thing that I did notice, these Canfor ones, I think there might have been, I was supposed to use a little bit more of the white paper based on the image itself, because these have a little bit different height to them, and there seems to be a lot more overhang. So I think you're supposed to actually fold it more somewhere around like here. So maybe these loads are a little bit smaller loads than these loads. So what I might actually do for that is I want to glue up these ones, and then for another set trim them down so they're a little bit lower. So we'll see how that works out. So I shaved these ones down, and they're not as high as the other ones. So they're a little bit different type of load, which is fine because they'll still fit in there. And even though they're not necessarily a snug fit into the center beam, they're still being held in by the magnets. So I will let these dry, and then I might put another coat because I'm not really seeing much glossiness. I guess there's a little bit of sheen to these. Camera may not be picking it up, but there's a little bit. So we'll let these dry and see how they look tomorrow. All right, welcome back. And now, since we've had the opportunity to let everything dry, and we can have a nice good look at our load that we've made. And again, I'm not sure if the camera will pick it up, but there is a little bit of sheen here for the loads. You can see a little bit of shine, so it certainly gives a little bit more instead of your typical dull that you're going to see on a lot of railroads. Nice good shine here. I did end up actually adding a little coat of white, just into the ends here, and then across the top, especially where this paper didn't completely cover all of the smaller load here, just to let it blend in a little bit more. I am finding that not that the magnets are overkill, because certainly in this case, then you definitely need them, especially when you don't have a snug fit, but they are excessively strong. So I think in future, what I might try to do so it's a little bit more manageable if you actually have the wood in between instead of the magnets going directly to themselves. So I might actually on this side put the actual, when I put the magnet in, then put the load itself, and then there's a little bit of wood in between both of them, so the attraction isn't as strong. So I might do that for future loads, but it certainly does the trick for these ones. And these guys are not going anywhere anytime fast. As well, we can use this opportunity to have a little look at the underbody. I know there's a couple of reviews that are already kicking around about these cars, but they're certainly nice runners. I know there's a few people that aren't necessarily keen about the couplers and the wheel turn radius, but they've been working well for me so far. So take these out. Oop. like I said earlier in the video, these rare earth magnets, they'll move on you. Okay, so there's our other load. Looking good. So I think we'll call this one complete. So thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you end up making your own loads. And that's it for now. Have a good one.